Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg is defending his company against claims that his platforms have harmed children. He took the stand yesterday in a landmark social media case. Zuckerberg faced hours of tough questioning, denying that Instagram was intentionally designed to be addictive. The case is seen as a bellwether that could have major implications for the social media industry. Let's bring in MS Now reporter Jillian Frankel. Jillian, take us through what Mark Zuckerberg had to say on the stand.
Anna, this is the first time we've seen Mark Zuckerberg testify in front of a jury like this. And yesterday he was pressed by the plaintiff's attorney, who presented him with documentation that seemed to suggest at least at one point the company may have had a goal of increasing time spent on the app. He also spent a lot of yesterday's testimony going over age restrictions on Instagram. You need to be 13 years old to have an Instagram account. But he mentioned how difficult it can be to enforce that. And he was also presented with emails, internal emails, and documentation about kids younger than that, younger than 13, who are present and active on Instagram. Yesterday at the courthouse at LA County Superior Court, he was also faced by grieving families, folks who blame social media companies for the deaths of their children, including a mother, Juliana Arnold, who we spoke with yesterday. I asked her specifically if she expects anything to change based on yesterday's testimony. I want you to hear what she had to say. Take a listen.
I think what has changed is the whole world now knows what's really going on in Meta, and that anything that they say or do, we cannot trust. So therefore, we cannot have our children to have access to these platforms in their current status unless legislation's passed that will force them to make these changes that are necessary to make their platforms designed by safety.
And looking ahead to the rest of this trial, we are expecting additional witnesses to testify, including at least one YouTube executive. The trial is set to wrap up sometime around the end of March. Anna?
Jillian Frankel, thank you for that reporting. And joining us now is another mother who was in that courtroom, Annie McGrath, founding member of the group Parents for Safe Online Spaces. Her 13-year-old son, Griffin, died after a classmate dared him to try a viral trend called the Pass Out Challenge, where kids try to choke themselves into passing out. Annie, gosh, I can't imagine what you've been through. I have a 14-year-old son myself. You were there in that courtroom for Mark Zuckerberg's testimony yesterday. What was your reaction to what you heard?
Well, they only let, a few people from the public in, and some of my group of moms got in the morning. I was in the afternoon, but within 5 minutes of being in there, I had counted 12 lies. But it was nice to see that then later when the defense came up and just called him on them, because it's different than Congress, because in Congress he just lies and isn't called on him. This time we have the internal documents that say that's just a bold false lie. We have the evidence. We have all of the research. We've got the data, and it's your company that did it, so you knew better.
What kind of lies, or what did you perceive as lies?
He said there was no evidence that it was causing addiction. That social media was causing addiction, and that was just not true. And he had research studies. They have thousands of documents in this, and this is so great because now it can be shared with the world for the first time. They've known, they have just made choices to take profits over our children's safety. They were choices that he made. So he can say he did not, make these choices, but now in this court it's a jury and they have the evidence. So
I know you became involved in this issue because of the death of your son, Griffin. Tell us about him and why you think online regulations could have saved him.
Sure. That's Griffin, or Bubba, as we called him. He was a sweet, mild-mannered kid, and when he was 13 years old. He was wicked smart, so he was studying in his room all the time. He wasn't even on social media. The only thing he looked at was YouTube, and then he was just starting to get on Facebook. My kids didn't have iPhones at all. He didn't get it till he was 13. And he was on YouTube a little bit because he was looking for science experiments and looking at speed cubing because he was a speed Rubik's cuber. We would go around to cubing contests, and his best time was at 8.7 seconds. He's also studying for a national science book competition. So we had no idea that there was danger there of him just looking at YouTube at the other cubers. But him and his friends came across a dangerous challenge called the Pass Out Challenge, and he was dared to try it by a little girl that he had a crush on, and he was FaceTiming with 2 kids when it went wrong. And we, I don't remember, but we have been just brokenhearted and grieving ever since. And I'm just trying to help other families to not have to go through this because it's impossible.
Well, your son has such a beautiful smile. It sounds like such a bright kid and a responsible kid, which is why I think his story is so moving in many ways for other parents who would maybe think, oh, I don't have to worry about my child. It can happen to anybody. I know this trial is now the first of a group of cases with more than 1,600 plaintiffs, including more than 350 families against social media companies. Do you think these types of lawsuits are the best way to hold these companies accountable?
I think right now we have to try every way possible. It's all hands on deck. Not only suing these companies, I don't think it's their pocketbook they're worried about, but they have to show their evidence. And this is data that's out there for the public that can also be shared with our Congress and Senate so they can see this evidence that shows that this is harming our children and hurry up and get the Kids Online Safety Act passed. That's how kids really will be saved. We are trying everything we can. I mean, I am in a class action lawsuit as well against YouTube. We just have to try every area. We have to try education, awareness, and then we have to get our lawmakers to finally. There has been no legislation passed in 25 years at the federal level on social media. And Kids Online Safety Act, we have been trying to get it for 4 years. I have been going to D.C. since December of 2022 trying to get this, and it's just Speaker Johnson and Scalise that are holding it up right now. So maybe this data and the public knowledge of this, I think the tide is turning. Maybe they will listen to us and actually meet us because they won't meet us.
Well, Annie McGrath, thank you for giving voice to this issue, and best of luck in your efforts as you continue to pursue safety for other families and other children. We appreciate those efforts. Thanks for being here.